I was still holding the pie when my father told me not to come home again. It was warm pumpkin, her favorite. I'd baked it the night before using Mom's old recipe, the one with extra nutmeg and that weird half-teaspoon of maple syrup she always insisted on. I drove 3 hours through fog to bring it to her, like I did every year. It was Thanksgiving. I was home. Or I thought I was. We hadn't even said grace yet. The turkey sat uncarved on the table. The stuffing steamed in the crystal dish Mom only brought out once a year. And I was still standing there, still smiling, still holding that pie when Dad said, "Give back the $50,000, Emma, or don't bother coming home again." At first, I thought I'd misheard him, that it was some kind of tasteless joke. But no one laughed. Chloe sat across the table with her hands folded like she was at a funeral. Tyler stared at the tablecloth. Even Mom, sweet, soft-spoken Mom, refused to meet my eyes. The pie suddenly felt heavier than it should have been, and that's when I realized I wasn't their daughter anymore. I was a suspect. I didn't sit down. I couldn't. The pie tray rested in my palms, and I glanced at it stupidly, as if it could explain what was happening. "Excuse me?" I said. Dad's jaw tightened. "Don't make this harder than it has to be." "What exactly are you accusing me of?" Chloe finally looked up. Her eyes were red, mascara clinging to the corners like she'd been crying for hours, but her voice was clear. "Mom's account. $50,000 disappeared last month, right after you helped her set up online banking." My mouth opened, but no sound came out. It was true that I'd helped Mom with her accounts. She'd been nervous about going paperless, something about not trusting the cloud. So I'd sat with her on a Sunday afternoon 4 weeks ago, walked her through the app, the passwords, the security questions. She even wrote everything down in a little notepad we kept in the kitchen drawer. That was 4 weeks ago. Now they were telling me that was the moment I stole from her. "Are you serious?" I whispered. "You think I took Mom's money?" Tyler finally spoke, his voice stiff like it hurt to say the words. We didn't want to believe it, but the bank confirmed the withdrawals were done online. No one else had access. No one except you. I looked at Mom. She didn't flinch, didn't nod, didn't shake her head. She just picked up her napkin and pressed it to her mouth like she might be sick. That's when it hit me. The pie, the traffic, the yearly ritual, none of it mattered. I set the pie down very gently on the edge of the counter. The tin clicked faintly against the granite. I picked up my coat from the back of the chair where I'd laid it earlier. "You have until the end of the week," Dad said quietly behind me. "Then we go to the lawyer." I didn't cry in the car. I didn't scream or curse or hit the steering wheel like they do in movies. I just drove, coat still half there, buttoned, the pie still sitting untouched on their kitchen counter. The streets were quiet, lit by porch lights and paper turkeys taped to windows. It was Thanksgiving night, and the whole town smelled like gravy and cinnamon. Except me. I checked into the same roadside inn I always passed on the way into town, but never had a reason to stop at. The clerk didn't ask why I needed a room on a holiday. I was thankful for that small mercy. The room smelled like old carpet and microwave popcorn. I kicked off my boots and sat on the edge of the bed, hands still shaking. I was 34 years old, a senior forensic accountant trusted with millions in corporate audits, and my own parents thought I'd stolen from them. The worst part, I wasn't even surprised. Not entirely. There had been signs, little things. The way Chloe would roll her eyes when Mom bragged about my promotions. The way Dad had once asked, "Don't you think it's time to settle down, live a little?" Like my career wasn't real life. Even last Christmas, when I'd offered to cover the cost of a new roof for the house, Tyler had muttered something about me trying to buy loyalty. I thought they were just joking. I thought we were still family. I lay back on the comforter and stared at the ceiling. I tried to replay the day Mom asked me to help with her bank account. Every tap, every login, every password reset. Had I missed something? Had someone else seen the notebook we kept in the drawer? The drawer was always unlocked. Anyone could have opened it. Chloe still lived at home, off and on, depending on her situation. Tyler had a key to the house. Still, they'd believed it. Believed I'd waited for Mom to get sick just to take her money. $50,000. As if I needed it. As if I would ever. My phone buzzed, a text from Chloe. We didn't want it to come to this, but you made it hard to trust you. No happy Thanksgiving. No hope you're okay. Just that. As if I'd broken something. As if I was the one who owed them an apology. Right now, someone had made me their fall girl. And if they wanted to treat me like the criminal in the family, maybe it was time I started investigating like one. The next morning, I woke early. No alarm, just instinct. Years of chasing corporate fraud had taught me one thing. Money never really disappears. It just gets redirected. The trick is knowing where to look first and who benefits. I poured myself a cup of bitter lobby coffee and opened my laptop on the motel desk. My firm had recently been investigating a pattern of elder financial abuse. Retirees with modest savings accounts that suddenly drained in 3 withdrawals, each just below the federal reporting limit. It wasn't just one bank, but one kept coming up more than the others. Greenwell Mutual. Mom's bank. I hadn't told my family I was involved in the investigation. It was confidential, technically, but I had clearance to review transaction data internally, and I knew exactly who to ask. I sent a quick message to Marcus, the compliance officer overseeing our current case. Just a name, a date range, and a location. Within an hour, I had what I needed. Timestamps, withdrawal amounts, teller logs. 3 withdrawals from my mother's account spaced 5 days apart. First, $20,000. Second, $15,000. Third, $15,000. Each one done in person. Not online. That was the first crack. They'd accused me of using online banking, said I was the only one with access. But if the money was taken in person, it wasn't me. I clicked the attached security footage link. Low resolution, but clear enough. The first video loaded. Greenwell Mutual, October 10th, 2:13 p.m. A young woman approached the counter, nervously glancing over her shoulder. Blonde ponytail, gray hoodie, large sunglasses. At first, I thought maybe someone had hired a proxy, a stranger paid to impersonate Mom. But then the girl stepped closer to the camera and pulled down her mask to speak to the teller. Chloe. Even with the grainy footage, I knew that face. I'd babysat that face, watched it blow out birthday candles and cry over failed boyfriends. She was fidgeting, tapping her fingers on the counter. She handed over what looked like Mom's ID and signed something. Her handwriting hadn't changed since high school. I leaned back in my chair, the motel light flickering above me. They hadn't just stolen the money. They'd planned it, thought through the timing, waited until I helped Mom go digital, then used that as cover to frame me. I opened the second video. October 15th, same branch. This time it was Tyler. No disguise, no nervous energy. Calm, confident. He joked with the teller, signed off like he owned the account. Third video. Chloe again. Same hoodie, different sunglasses. The arrogance of it made my skin crawl. But there was still a missing piece. How had they gotten access to Mom's ID and account info? Then I remembered something. 2 weeks before I helped Mom set up the app, she'd had outpatient tests at the hospital. Nothing serious, just preliminary scans. Chloe had volunteered to stay overnight with her. Mom's purse had been with her the whole time. Her checkbook, her bank statements, her driver's license. That's where it started. But it didn't end there. I checked the metadata from the account setup. The first login after I left town had come not from Mom's phone, but from a tablet linked to the home Wi-Fi. Same IP address Chloe used when she streamed Netflix. And the one-time password was sent to an alternate email I hadn't registered. I looked it up. The recovery phone number belonged to Tyler. They weren't just sloppy. They were arrogant. They thought no one would question it, not if the successful daughter was the obvious culprit. Not if the rest of the family spoke with one voice. I closed the laptop and sat in the dim light for a long moment. This wasn't just a misunderstanding. It wasn't a moment of desperation or a borrowed amount gone wrong. It was fraud. Calculated, deliberate fraud. And they had used my love for Mom as the smokescreen. I zipped the laptop bag closed and picked up the phone. Not to call the police. Not yet. I called my office instead. Asked Marcus for something specific. the printouts of the teller signatures. I'd need them for comparison. Then I slid open my suitcase and pulled out a slim black folder, the kind I used for courtroom presentations. If they wanted a villain in the family, I'd show them what it looked like when the villain kept receipts. I didn't call ahead. I drove back Monday afternoon, just as the sunlight hit that golden slant it always did between Halloween and Christmas. The kind of light that used to make the house feel like home. Not today. The driveway was full. Tyler's SUV, Chloe's compact, Mom's old sedan. No guests. Just family. I parked at the curb and sat for a moment, engine ticking, hands resting on the leather folder in my lap. The one that held every receipt, every timestamp, every lie they thought no one would notice. Then I stepped out, walked up the porch steps, and let myself in. The house smelled like chicken broth and rosemary. The kitchen lights were on. I could hear the low murmur of conversation, the clatter of silverware, a laugh that didn't belong to me anymore. I found them all in the kitchen. Chloe was perched on the counter, coffee mug in hand, legs swinging like she was 13 again. Tyler leaned against the fridge, arms crossed, expression unreadable. Mom stood by the sink, drying dishes with slow, practiced movements. Dad was stirring something on the stove. They looked up as I entered, and everything stopped. I walked past them to the island and placed the folder on the smooth wooden surface where we used to roll out cookie dough. Then I opened it. "You believed I stole from Mom," I said quietly. "Let me show you what really happened." The air changed, subtle, like before a storm. I pulled out the first photo, a still from the bank's security footage. Chloe in sunglasses leaning over a teller's counter signing a form. October 10th, $20,000, not online. Not me. No one moved, not even Chloe. The second photo showed Tyler smiling in a navy sweater, handing over a check. October 15th, $15,000. I could feel my voice trembling at the edges, not from anger, but restraint. These were not strangers. These were the people I'd grown up with. Chloe's fingers gripped her mug tighter. She opened her mouth, then closed it again. I laid down the teller slips. Same branch, same signatures. I matched them against your handwriting, Chloe, from that note on the fridge last week. A beat passed. Then Chloe finally spoke, her voice thinner than I remembered. "You went through our stuff?" I tilted my head, almost gently. "You went through Mom's." Mom reached for the documents, eyes scanning the print, her hands unsteady. When she spoke, her voice was quiet, almost pleading. "But the bank said it was done online. That's what they told us." "That's what they thought," I said. "But the withdrawal itself wasn't. The online access came later, from a tablet connected to your Wi-Fi. The account was set to recover through an email tied to Tyler's phone number." A silence settled over the kitchen like falling snow. Dad stopped stirring. Chloe looked away. Tyler stared at the floor like he might find a different truth down there. "You let me think my daughter stole from me," Mom whispered. She wasn't looking at anyone in particular, maybe not even me. "You told me not to come home," I said, quieter still. "And you never asked if I did it." That was what stung, not the accusation, not even the threat of lawyers, the absence of the question. Chloe finally looked at me, her face twisted, not with guilt, but bitterness. "You always get everything. The job, the praise, the respect. I just wanted to level the field." I studied her for a long moment. She looked older than last week. Or maybe I was finally seeing her for the first time. "You didn't level anything," I said. "You burned it." Tyler cleared his throat. His voice was flat. "She'll be fine, Mom. Emma makes more than all of us combined. It wasn't personal." I let out a slow breath, fighting the chill crawling up my spine. It's always personal when it's family. I watched Mom sit slowly at the table, folder still open before her. Her hands rested in her lap, palms up, like she didn't know what to do with them. Dad finally spoke. "Emma, what are you going to do?" I met his eyes. For the first time in days, I didn't feel like the child in the room. "I'm not pressing charges, but I've sent the file to the family attorney. You can decide what to do with it." He nodded once, tired, older than I remembered. I zipped the folder shut. My hands moved on their own, muscle memory from years of meetings and investigations. This time, it felt final. "You told me not to come back unless I returned the money," I said. "I didn't take the money, but I brought the truth." I waited just long enough for the words to land. Then I turned. "Emma," Mom's voice broke. I paused at the doorway. "Thanksgiving's over." "You all made sure of that." I left the house without another word. Didn't take the folder. Didn't take the pie. Just my keys. And whatever part of me still believed they would have chosen me. I didn't drive home right away. I sat in my car outside the house for a while, watching the kitchen window from the curb. No one followed me out. The lights stayed on. Chloe's laughter didn't return. Tyler didn't open the door to say anything. No one came running down the driveway to apologize, and that, more than anything, told me everything I needed to know. Back in Boston, the city felt sharper, quieter. I returned to work as if nothing had happened, but I wasn't quite the same. I stopped calling on Sunday nights, didn't check the family. Group chat. Left the voicemail icon blinking on my phone for 3 full days before I listened to it. It was from Mom. "Emma, we were wrong. I know that now. I didn't want to believe it. I'm sorry. I don't expect you to forgive us. I just wanted you to know. The house feels empty." She hung up before the minute mark. 2 weeks passed. Then a letter came. Real paper, real envelope. Inside was a photo. Me, Chloe, and Tyler, ages 6, 8, and 10, sitting on the back porch in mismatched Halloween costumes. I was the scarecrow. Chloe had tinfoil wings. Tyler was just covered in red paint. On the back of the photo was a single line. "We didn't know how much we would miss you until you were gone." No signature. Tyler didn't reach out. Chloe neither, but according to a cousin who still lived nearby, they both moved out of the house. Mom stopped speaking to them, said she needed space. I didn't ask what that meant. I didn't offer to come back. Instead, I made something new. I started a weekend seminar at the community college, Financial Protection for Older Adults. It wasn't glamorous, but it felt like something I could control. Something good. One Saturday after class, an older woman came up and said, "I wish I had a daughter like you." I smiled politely, didn't say what I was thinking. So did mine. Once. December came and went without a tree, without a call, without the annual ornament exchange I used to plan. There's a kind of grief no one prepares you for. The kind that comes not from death, but from the realization that the people you love chose someone else's version of you over your own. And once they made that choice, they couldn't take it back. I still keep the folder. It's not in my office, not on my desk. Just in a drawer near the bookshelf, under old tax returns and a copy of the mortgage. I haven't opened it since that night. I don't need to, because the facts haven't changed, and neither have I. If this story made you think about family, trust, and standing up for yourself even when it costs you everything, I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. Have you ever had to choose between being right and being loved? Share your story. And if you want more real stories about betrayal, resilience, and finding your way back to yourself, hit that subscribe button. Because sometimes the hardest truths are the ones we need to hear most.
You're not invited. It's only for those who matter and VIPs. My sister laughed as she deleted my name from the group chat. My name is Olivia. And from wherever you're watching this, stay with me. Because the moment she stole my $5,200 and humiliated me in front of our family, I knew one thing. She may have just planned the party, but I was about to plan the ending. It was supposed to be a surprise birthday bash for our father. Elegant, heartfelt, unforgettable. I'd spent weeks coordinating with the vendors, negotiating the venue, putting down deposits. Every invoice had my name. Every dollar had come from my account. I poured in my savings like it meant something, because I thought it did. When I asked Sabrina about the final guest list, she barely looked up from her phone. "Don't worry about it. We've got it covered." But then, hours later, I opened our family WhatsApp group. Gone. My name, gone. My messages, deleted. My role, erased. I asked her in front of everyone, "What happened?" She didn't even flinch. She just laughed and said, "Oh, Olivia, this is for people who matter. It's a VIP thing now." And just like that, I was disinvited from my own father's birthday party, the one I funded. Everyone else, they laughed. Even my father chuckled awkwardly and said, "Just let it go. Your sister knows what she's doing." I stood there, feeling the weight of every ignored effort, every time I had been the one in the background, the one cleaning up, stepping aside, making room. My throat tightened. My ears rang. But I didn't scream. I didn't argue. I just looked her dead in the eye and said, "Perfect." That night, while Sabrina posted sneak peek stories on Instagram, I opened my laptop. My heart pounded. My fingers were ice. But I didn't hesitate. I canceled the ballroom reservation, logged into the account with my credentials. Then the caterer. I sent an email. "We no longer require services. Please confirm cancellation." The decorator. The string quartet. The cake order with the gold fondant ribbon. One by one, I shut it all down. The last thing I did? I messaged every invited guest personally. "Hi, just letting you know the event for Mr. Patterson's birthday has been postponed due to unforeseen circumstances. Sorry for the change." No one questioned it. No one suspected. Not even her. The next morning, the sun rose like it always does. Sabrina got ready like it was her wedding day. Silk dress, designer heels, makeup artist at home. I stayed in my pajamas, sipping tea, scrolling through her countdown posts with quiet calm. Then my phone buzzed. Once. Then again. And again. She was calling. Then our mom. Then our cousin Danielle. I didn't answer, because by the time they arrived at the venue, the doors were locked. The lights were off. The parking lot was empty. And on the most important day she thought she owned, only one person showed up. And it wasn't who she expected. Growing up, I was always the helper, the fixer, the quiet shadow that held the house together. And she, Sabrina, was the favorite. She was beauty, charm, chaos. I was routine, effort, apologies. She lit fires. I put them out. When we were 8, she told our neighbor I'd broken their window. I hadn't. She had. But when my parents asked and I said nothing, she stood there with big innocent eyes and let me take the blame. By 13, I was the one who made dinner while our mom worked double shifts. Sabrina? She borrowed mom's lipstick and snuck out with boys twice her age. She got caught stealing from mom's purse to buy shoes. She cried, pouted, promised it was just once. They hugged her. I got a lecture about being more supportive. By the time we hit high school, I worked at a diner after school to afford my own prom dress. Sabrina's? She wore a $900 gown that friend paid for. Later I found out mom had sold her engagement ring to cover it. The same cycle played into adulthood. When dad had a stroke, I moved back home to take care of him. I cleaned him up, fed him, drove him to therapy 3 times a week. I even took freelance remote work just to stay nearby. Sabrina? She flew to Cancun the next morning and posted selfies at an infinity pool with a caption. "Life is short. Be legendary." And yet, when she walked into a room, people smiled. When I walked in, they handed me a trash bag or asked if I'd bring more ice. I didn't mind being useful, but I did mind being invisible. This birthday was supposed to be different. A surprise party I planned not just to honor Dad, but maybe to reclaim a little space for myself. To finally be seen. I thought if I worked hard enough, if I created something beautiful enough, they'd notice. I thought maybe, just maybe, he'd say, "I'm proud of you." But Sabrina beat me to it. Or rather, she stole her way in like she always had. She took the funds, hijacked the plans, and turned it into her show. Then she deleted me from the group chat like I was an intern who had served her purpose. Not even a thank you. Not even a let's talk about it. Just a smirk. She used me like a donor, and erased me like I never existed. The worst part wasn't that she excluded me. It was that no one else cared. Not my mother. Not my aunts. Not even Dad, the man I fed, lifted, cleaned, and carried for the last 11 months. But this time, I wasn't going to just disappear into the kitchen or the background. I wasn't going to beg for space at a table I paid for. If they couldn't remember who I was, I'd make sure they never forgot what I did. It started with the receipts. I wasn't snooping, just organizing. After she kicked me out of the planning group, I decided to tidy up my email confirmations. That's when I noticed something strange. The banquet hall, the one I'd paid the $2,000 deposit for, was no longer showing under my login. When I clicked Forgot Password, it said the recovery email had been changed. I called the venue. Calmly, professionally. The woman on the line checked the file and said, "Oh, your sister Sabrina already informed us. She's the new primary contact." I blinked. Did she make any additional payments? She hesitated. "No. We still have your deposit, but she said you transferred the event to her." I didn't. I hung up, my heart pounding, and called the florist next. Same story. Then the decorator, the photographer, even the bakery I'd selected for Dad's cake, a 3-tiered masterpiece with his favorite chessboard design. Each vendor now had Sabrina listed as the client. But the payments? Still under my name. My card. My money. That's when it hit me. This wasn't just exclusion. This wasn't just another cruel sibling stunt. She was stealing the event, rebranding it, making it hers. She was parading around like the orchestrator of a perfect, luxurious celebration, riding high on money she didn't earn and credit she didn't deserve. Later that day, I overheard her on the phone with one of our cousins. "I planned the whole thing," she said proudly. "Dad's going to lose it. I even added a champagne toast. You'll see. I'm practically his legacy." I nearly dropped the dish in my hand. That word, legacy. That wasn't just ego. That was erasure. She didn't just want the spotlight. She wanted to replace me in the story. For years, she'd taken the praise, the attention, the warmth that should have been shared. But this time, she wasn't just taking what was mine. She was rewriting the narrative so I didn't exist at all. And the worst part? They were letting her. No one asked, "Where's Olivia?" No one said, "She did all the work." No one questioned how the girl who hadn't paid a dime was suddenly the host of a $5,000 event. But I've always been the quiet one, the helper, the invisible engine. And quiet doesn't mean powerless. It means focused, precise, deadly when underestimated. She wanted me to vanish from the room, then I'd vanish. But not before flipping the table she set with my money. At midnight, while the rest of the house slept in smug satisfaction, I opened my laptop. I had every receipt, every invoice, every confirmation email, neatly saved, categorized, timestamped. I started with the biggest piece, the banquet hall. I called the manager directly. He recognized my name. "You're the one who made the initial booking, correct?" "Yes," I replied, calm and clear. "And I'm canceling it. Effective immediately." He paused, confused. "But your sister, she isn't on the contract." "I am." Click. Then came the caterer. I drafted a short, polite email. "Hello. Due to a change in plans, we will no longer require your services for the Patterson event. Kindly confirm cancellation and refund processing as per our agreement." Send. The decorator? Same. The custom cake? Cancelled. Refund requested. The violinist? Released from duty. I moved through each task like a surgeon, quiet, focused, deliberate. No rage. No drama. Just business. Then I took a breath, opened the old invite list, and typed one message to every guest. "Dear friends and family, due to an unexpected situation, the birthday celebration has been postponed. We sincerely apologize for the inconvenience. Further updates will be shared soon." I sent it to every contact, one by one. No explanation, no elaboration, just a silent closing of the curtain. Except for one person, Uncle Raymond. He wasn't just family. He was sharper than anyone in our bloodline, a respected attorney with a memory like steel and a spine like stone. He was also the only person who had ever looked at me like I wasn't just a background piece in the family puzzle. I told him everything. Every dollar. Every deception. Every time Sabrina rerouted a vendor using my funds and called it hers. He didn't interrupt. Didn't react. When I was done, I stared at the screen, waiting for some kind of outrage. Instead, he typed back 5 words. "Be at the venue tomorrow." And then one more. Just watch. I sat back in my chair, heart thudding. My fingers trembled, not from fear, but from release. For the first time in years, I wasn't the one cleaning up after someone else's mess. I was rewriting the story, and this time, the ending would be mine. The morning sun rose like nothing had happened. It was my father's birthday. And Sabrina? She looked like she was heading to the Oscars. Sequin gown, fresh gel nails, designer heels. A beauty team had been at the house since 6 a.m. prepping her like she was the guest of honor. No, the queen of the celebration. She even set up her phone on a mini tripod for a live stream. "Can't wait for y'all to see the magic I planned," she whispered into the camera, blowing a kiss to her followers. The family piled into 3 cars, all dressed to impress. Laughter, lipstick, loud music. I didn't go. I stayed home, in my robe, with a hot cup of tea and a front-row seat to poetic justice. It didn't take long. They arrived at the banquet hall and found the gates locked. The lights were off. No greeters. No valet. No welcome sign. Just an echoing silence no one could ignore. Sabrina froze, her phone still rolling live. "What the?" she whispered, yanking at the door handles like they'd magically spring open. She started calling vendors. The caterer, the DJ, the florist. No answers. Just cold rings and missed calls. A few guests began trickling into the parking lot, all dressed in tuxedos and heels. They looked around, confused. One by one, they pulled out their phones. "Didn't you get the message?" one cousin said, scrolling. "It says it's been postponed." Sabrina snatched the phone from her, her painted nails trembling. "Who sent this?" Every guest had gotten the same thing. "Event postponed due to unforeseen circumstances. We'll update soon." Within the hour, they were all standing in an empty lot. No decorations, no music, no table settings or speeches. Just whispers, judgment, confusion, and beneath it all, embarrassment. Cold and loud. And then a final car pulled in, a sleek black sedan. The door opened slow. Uncle Raymond, crisp gray suit, folder in hand, calm as ever, like a judge walking into court. He stepped out, his voice loud enough for the crowd. "Is Olivia here?" Everyone turned. Sabrina's lip quivered. "She's not here," she stammered. He raised an eyebrow. "Interesting, because she owns the event contract. She paid the vendors, and she canceled it, as is her legal right." People gasped. Sabrina looked like a statue, glassy-eyed, stiff, stunned. Uncle Raymond opened the folder slowly. "You rerouted funds. Misrepresented authority. That's called misappropriation." He handed her a printed invoice breakdown. "Unless you repay the full amount immediately, you're looking at a formal complaint. Civil, possibly criminal, depending on intent." Silence. Complete, cutting silence. No live stream. No clapping. Just a frozen girl in glitter, exposed in front of the very people she tried to impress. And there I was, not even present, but louder than ever. The only person who showed up? The one who mattered. Back at home, all hell broke loose. Sabrina stormed in first, heels in hand, makeup streaked from sweat and panic. "You embarrassed me," she screamed. "You ruined everything." I didn't flinch. I didn't raise my voice. I just slid the folder across the table. Smooth. Final. Like the closing scene of a courtroom drama. Receipts. Contracts. Emails. Payment confirmations. Proof. "I cancel what I paid for," I said calmly. "You try to sell my work as your own." She stood there, panting, shaking, looking for something to break. But there was nothing left. Mom came in next, holding her purse like a shield. She opened her mouth to say something, probably her usual line. "Let's not overreact." But this time she said nothing. Just sat down slowly, her eyes darting between us. Then Dad wheeled in from the hallway, still weak from his last round of therapy. His voice was quieter than it used to be, but it landed like thunder. "Sabrina, is this true?" She didn't deny it. She broke. The glittering goddess, the self-made legacy, the birthday queen, collapsed right there on the couch, sobbing into her hands. She blamed stress. She blamed pressure. She blamed me. "She's always trying to ruin me," she wailed. You all never saw how manipulative she is. But no one was buying it anymore. Mom didn't even move to comfort her. Just stared at the carpet like it was telling her a story she'd ignored for too long. Dad looked tired, disappointed, maybe even embarrassed. I said nothing more. I didn't need to, because the real damage wasn't in the cancellation. It was in the exposure. By evening, the family group chat, the one I'd been kicked out of, was dead. People quietly exited, one by one. Word spread. Fast. Our aunts, cousins, church friends. They all heard what happened, that Sabrina used my money, deleted my name, and ended up hosting a party no one showed up to. Her image? Shattered. Her influencer page dropped 1,200 followers in less than 24 hours. Her last post, the one about planning Dad's perfect day, was filled with comments. Liar. Tell the real story. Stealing your sister's shine isn't cute. She tried damage control. She posted a teary apology video with the caption, "We all make mistakes." But no one was buying it. Her sponsors pulled back. Collaborations vanished. The invitations stopped coming. Her world wasn't just unraveling. It was collapsing. And not because I shouted or cursed or exposed her online. No. It was collapsing because I refused to stay erased. Because I let her build her empire on my back and then calmly walked away, taking every brick I laid with me. And without me, she had nothing but glitter and dust. 2 months later, I launched my own event planning service. No big signs. No flashy PR. Just a simple name, a clean website, and a promise. Beautiful things done right. Guess who helped me get started? Uncle Raymond. He showed up one morning with a binder full of legal templates, a list of reliable vendors, and a small card that just said, "Quiet justice is the loudest kind." My first booking was a baby shower. Modest, cozy, but filled with heart. I cried in the car after setting up the final table. Not because it was perfect, but because I had built it with my own 2 hands. No one's shadow over me, no one else taking credit. Then came a gallery opening. A birthday brunch. A small wedding for a couple who just wanted joy without drama. With every event, I proved something, not to others, but to myself. I was not invisible. I was not weak. I was not the forgotten sister. I was not the helper who existed only to make someone else shine. I was capable, strategic, resilient, and finally free. I didn't flaunt my success. I didn't post about it online or rub it in anyone's face. I just worked, quietly, and let my reputation speak for me. Words spread in circles that used to ignore me. A florist I used to beg for quotes now called me directly, asking to collaborate. A venue manager sent me referrals saying, "We've heard you're reliable. You do things right." Then one afternoon, Dad showed up. No announcement. Just walked into my tiny office with his hat in his hands. He looked smaller than I remembered. He placed an envelope on my desk without saying a word. Inside, a handwritten note and a check. "I'm sorry I didn't see what was happening," it read. "I thought I was watching 2 daughters grow up. I didn't realize one was being buried under the other." I didn't cry. I didn't hug him. I just nodded. I forgave him. Not because he said the right words, but because I was done carrying their blindness, their silence, their inability to see the worth in quiet strength. Forgiveness wasn't for him. It was for me to stop dragging their weight into rooms I now owned. Sabrina? I hadn't heard from her. Her socials went dark. Word was she moved to another city, trying to rebrand. I didn't care. She could reinvent herself 1,000 times. But I wasn't reinventing anything. I was just finally being who I always was, without apology, without erasure. 6 months later, I hosted my biggest event yet, a charity gala for underprivileged students. The same banquet hall, the same date, a new reason. This time, it wasn't about status or applause. It was about giving kids a moment to feel like royalty, to be seen, celebrated, and poured into. the way I had always wished someone would do for me. Vendors didn't ghost me anymore. They greeted me with handshakes and respect. Every detail was polished. Golden candlelight, string music, a 3-course meal plated like art. And this time, I was the name on every document, every invoice, every introduction. The hall buzzed with joy, laughter, gratitude. And I stood by the door. No gown, no spotlight, just a clipboard and a soft smile, watching it all unfold like a dream I'd waited years to wake into. A woman passed by, her daughter clinging to her arm in a dress 2 sizes too big. She looked around the room, eyes wide with wonder, then turned to a volunteer and asked, "Who planned all this?" The volunteer didn't hesitate. She just pointed and said, "Her. Olivia." I'll never forget the look the woman gave me. Not admiration, not awe, just quiet recognition. The kind you give someone who finally took up space and earned it. Sabrina? No one had seen her in weeks. Rumor was she tried to launch a new influencer brand in another city. It didn't land. Her last known scandal involved an unpaid brand deal and a public call-out post that went viral, not in the way she hoped. She unfollowed me months ago, and I never looked back, because by then, I wasn't the helper anymore. I wasn't the scapegoat, or the sidekick, or the forgotten older sister. I was the builder, the host, the name behind the invitation. And this time, the invitation had my logo on it. As the music swelled and the children danced under fairy lights, I walked to the back of the room, near the same double doors she once locked me out of. I rested my hand on the handle. I remembered how cold it had felt that day, locked, closed, unwelcoming. Now, it was warm, because the people inside had come not for power, not for show, but for purpose. And I had given it to them. In the end, I didn't need revenge that screamed. I just needed silence loud enough to echo truth. And the truth? I was never late to the celebration. I was never forgotten. I was just postponed. They told me I didn't matter, that I wasn't VIP. But when I stood in that full room, I realized I was the only one who didn't need an invite, because I made the space. The grill was hot, the music was loud, and the air was thick with smoke and jokes. It was our annual family barbecue, the sacred tradition, as Mom called it. Kids ran wild. Uncles argued about football, and the buffet table overflowed with store-bought burgers and soggy coleslaw. As usual, I had made the potato salad from scratch, prepped the lemonade, arranged the cutlery, and texted reminders to everyone who conveniently forgot the time. Nobody thanked me. They never did. I was the invisible daughter, the one who showed up early, stayed late, and was somehow always in the way. I hovered near the drink's cooler, sipping from a plastic cup, half listening to my siblings laugh about something I wasn't included in. Then came the moment. Dinner was served. Plates were loaded. Everyone sat in the backyard folding chairs, red and white tablecloths flapping in the breeze. My mom, wearing her signature apron and fake pearls, stood up with her wineglass in hand. "I just want to say how grateful I am for all of you," she smiled, eyes darting from person to person, skipping me like I was just part of the fence. Then she locked eyes with me. Cold. Calculated. Honestly, if Jade disappeared tomorrow, I don't think anyone would even notice. And then they laughed. All of them. My brothers. My aunts. Even my dad gave a half-hearted chuckle as he chewed his ribs. The sound wrapped around me like barbed wire. I didn't cry. I didn't blink. I just quietly raised my hot dog like a toast and smiled. Challenge accepted. Then I took a bite, chewed slowly, stood up from my seat, and started clearing dishes. Like always. But something inside me had cracked. No, clicked. That night, I washed every plate, wiped every table, and loaded their trash bags into the bins. Then I went upstairs to the old room they still called Jade's Corner, even though it was barely larger than a closet. I sat down on my laptop, logged out of every family group chat, deleted my location sharing app. Then I opened a tab titled Apartments Outside City Limits. I wasn't angry. I wasn't plotting revenge. I just had nothing left to prove. For 29 years, I had begged them with my actions to see me, to hear me. And they laughed. So now, I'd give them exactly what they claimed they wanted. Silence. By midnight, my bags were packed. Essentials only. Laptop. Passport. Savings folder. The necklace my grandma left me, the only person who ever made me feel seen. I left my key on the dresser. Left no note. No explanation. No drama. Just absence. My name is Jade Harper. And from wherever you're watching this, stay with me. Because the night my mother said no one would notice if I disappeared, I decided to show her exactly what happens when the one holding the pieces walks away. The first morning I woke up in the little rental cabin on the edge of a sleepy lakeside town, I didn't feel free. I felt numb. I sat on the edge of the unfamiliar bed, wrapped in a blanket that didn't smell like home, and stared at the stillness around me. It was quiet. Too quiet. No sibling banging on the door, needing a ride. No mom shouting for more paper towels. No reminders on my phone to pick up prescriptions for my father. No noise. And yet, somehow that silence was the loudest thing I'd ever heard. I didn't vanish on a whim. I'd been preparing to disappear long before I ever heard my mother say those words. Because deep down, I always knew they didn't see me. Not really. Growing up, I was the reliable one. I brought home straight A's, got my first job at 16, paid part of the household bills while my siblings got allowances for doing nothing. When my brother totaled his car, I gave him mine. When my sister needed money for tuition, they came to me, even though I was working double shifts to afford my own night classes. Every birthday, I spent baking cakes, decorating, organizing. Every holiday, I stayed behind cleaning dishes while the rest of the family posed for photos I wasn't in. My reward? Mockery. Dismissal. And a mother who looked me in the eyes and said I could vanish, and no one would even notice. So, I tested that theory. And I walked away. At first, it felt like punishment. I watched the trees outside my window sway in the wind while I tried to figure out who I was without someone needing me. I didn't tell anyone where I went. I disabled my Instagram, shut down Facebook, blocked every family number. I started fresh under a new account, Jade R, freelance admin, available remotely. I applied for jobs quietly, took early morning walks with headphones in, and no one to ask me where I was going. No one to call me in the middle of a work shift with another small favor. No guilt. No obligation. Just me. It wasn't easy. There were nights I cried. Nights I hovered over the send button, tempted to message my sister, my father, even my mom, just to say, I'm okay. But I didn't. Because deep down, I wasn't doing this to be missed. I was doing it to find out if I mattered when I wasn't useful. It was the first time in my life I wasn't performing for their approval. And that freedom? It didn't come in fireworks. It came in small, defiant breaths. I made my coffee the way I liked it, watched movies without someone judging my choices, started writing again, took pictures of sunsets and posted them on an anonymous blog. I was lonely, but I wasn't alone, because for the first time ever, I had me. There's something sacred about erasing yourself on purpose. Not to run, not to hide, but to start over on your own terms. I called it the quiet delete. And I didn't flinch. First, I closed every account tied to my full name. Bank? Switched. Email? New. Social media? Gone. The family Netflix account, the one I paid for that they all used? Deactivated. The shared grocery app? Uninstalled. The auto-pay subscriptions for things I wasn't even using anymore? Cancelled. No angry texts. No explanations. Just silence. I sold my car. Bought a used one with no tracking, no Bluetooth sync, no connection to my old insurance plan. I called my workplace and gave 2 weeks' notice, told them I was relocating for personal reasons. My boss didn't ask questions. He just said, "You've always been the quiet one." Quiet. Funny how the same word that defined my existence was now the only thing keeping me sane. I rented a 1-bedroom cabin 3 hours outside the city. No one knew the address. Not my siblings. Not my coworkers. Not even my friends from college. I kept one phone but changed the number. The old one? I dropped in the bottom of the lake beside the cabin, battery removed. That number had been ringing for everyone else for years. I didn't want it anymore. Jade Harper, the family errand girl? She no longer existed. Now I was Jay Harlow, a freelance assistant, virtual, no photos online, payment through PayPal only. It felt like a performance at first, but then it became a practice. And eventually, a personality. I built a new rhythm. Morning walks by the lake. Coffee while reading client briefs. Midday journaling. Late-night emails with motivational affirmations I used to send them, now redirected to myself. I remembered how to be still, how to be small, without being invisible, how to take up space, even in silence. Sometimes I'd sit on the porch and ask myself, if they ever looked for me, would they even know where to begin? And the answer always came back the same. No. Because they never truly knew me. They knew what I did for them, not who I was without them. They knew the dishes got done. They didn't know what book I loved. They knew the groceries got bought. They didn't know my favorite flower. They knew I always showed up, but never noticed how tired I was when I did. So I disappeared, not to make a point, but to protect my peace. They called me quiet like it was a flaw. Now, that silence was my sanctuary. And for the first time, I wasn't missing. I was becoming. It took a week for them to notice I was gone. Not just not home. Gone. No posts. No texts. No last-minute favors. No backup. At first, I imagined the family group chat. Probably something like, has anyone heard from Jade? She's probably sulking. She'll show up when she needs something. The irony? I never needed them. They needed me. And without me, their well-oiled little machine started to rust. Week 2. My brother, Mark, missed his court hearing because I wasn't there to remind him. Week 3. My mom forgot her medication refill. I used to handle all her prescription pickups. Week 4. My sister completely botched her work event. She always relied on me for planning, menus, checklists, rentals. She'd send me Pinterest boards, and I'd turn them into reality. This time, she cried on Instagram because the tablecloths didn't match the centerpieces. By the second month, the calls started. Blocked numbers. Unknown numbers. Emails to my old account. Jade, this isn't funny. Where are you? Mom's getting worried. Dad keeps asking if you're mad. I watched it all through the burner email I left active, the one I only used for bills and airline points. Their panic grew in stages. Annoyance. Inconvenience. Realization. They hadn't just lost a person. They lost their infrastructure. The birthday reminders. The family calendar. The emergency contact who always showed up, even when she was sick, tired, or heartbroken. I was the unpaid secretary. The emotional sponge. The fixer of their messes. And now, they had to sit in the mess. By month 3, my cousin posted a family photo at another barbecue. Everyone was there, except me. I stared at the screen and noticed something no one else probably did. The plates were paper. The food looked microwaved. The tablecloths were wrinkled. The smiles were strained. Even my mother's usual over-the-top centerpiece was missing. One of my old coworkers messaged me privately. I hope you're safe. I heard what your mom said at the barbecue before you left. People are talking. That caught me off guard, because I hadn't told a soul what she said. But apparently someone at the party had heard it too. Word spread. What was once a casual, cruel joke now echoed in gossip circles as what it truly was, emotional abuse. By month 5, the tone shifted. Their messages weren't defensive anymore. They were desperate. Please, Jade. We miss you. You matter. I'm sorry we didn't show it. Can we talk? Just once. Even my mom tried. Jade. I didn't mean what I said. But I remembered the way her eyes had narrowed. The way she meant every syllable. The laughter. The smug sip of wine. And suddenly, her apology didn't feel like healing. It felt like damage control. So I didn't reply. I let the silence keep speaking. Because sometimes, absence is louder than any scream. And I was finally learning. They didn't deserve the version of me they destroyed. By the 6th month, their silence was gone. Now they were searching. Not because they missed me. Because they couldn't function without me. My mother started posting cryptic status updates. If you see my daughter, tell her we love her. Please come home, Jade. We're sorry. But there were no details. No explanation. Just carefully packaged grief. Curated for sympathy. My cousin shared the post with a comment. Families fall apart when the strong ones go silent. It got over 300 likes. I watched it all from my cabin, sipping tea, laptop open, calendar full of client calls. I had work to do, a business to run. While they begged for the girl who once answered every call, I was becoming a woman who didn't need their permission to exist. Then came the video. My sister, the same one who used to roll her eyes every time I opened my mouth, posted a tearful apology on TikTok. She sat in her living room, mascara smudged, holding her baby in one arm. Jade, if you're watching this, I just want you to know we didn't realize what we did. You were always there. Always. And we laughed like it didn't cost you something. Mom regrets what she said. She talks about it every day. We miss you. The comments rolled in. She sounds broken. Jade, please go home. No one deserves that kind of pain. But the one that hit me the hardest? Sometimes, leaving is the loudest love letter to yourself. Still, I didn't respond. Because apologies mean nothing when they're just reactions to discomfort. They weren't apologizing because they saw me. They were apologizing because they finally saw what life looked like without me. That's not love. That's consequence. At the 8-month mark, I changed locations. I moved to a small town on the other side of the state. Different address. New name on the mailbox. Same piece. I hired an assistant for my virtual business. Started writing articles for women's empowerment sites. Under a pen name, of course. I was thriving. No one calling me overdramatic. No one rolling their eyes when I offered ideas. No one asking for my help and forgetting I existed the next second. Just quiet wins. One day, I got a letter forwarded from my old P.O. box. Handwritten. The envelope shaky. It was from my dad. He hadn't said much during that barbecue. He'd just chewed his ribs while my mother gutted me with a single sentence. But in the letter, I should have said something. I should have defended you. I saw the look in your eyes that night, Jade. And I ignored it. That's on me. I won't beg you to come home. But I want you to know I see you now. And I'm sorry. I folded the letter and placed it in my desk drawer. Didn't cry. Didn't rush to respond. Because even sincerity comes too late when it's built on years of silence. But I'll admit, it was the first time I thought, maybe one day, maybe, I'll let them see who I've become. I didn't come back. Not because I wanted revenge, but because I found something better than forgiveness. Peace. My new home was small, sunlit, and quiet, the kind of quiet that doesn't feel like loneliness. It felt like permission. Every day, I woke up to birdsong instead of barking demands. Every meal I made was for me, not for a crowd that forgot to say thank you. And every task I completed added to my life, not theirs. I turned my freelance side gig into a business, a virtual operations agency helping overworked women escape burnout. Women like me. Women who were always the strong ones. I named it Harper and Company. A quiet nod to the girl who vanished, so she could finally be seen. Clients loved me. They respected deadlines. Paid on time. Thanked me without being asked. Some even cried on Zoom calls when I built systems that gave them back their lives. One woman said, "You saved my sanity." No one had ever said that to me before, not even when I spent years saving everyone else. And the money? Better than I ever imagined. Within 6 months, I'd triple my income. I bought my little home outright, no mortgage. Painted the walls soft lavender. Put a garden in the back. Hung fairy lights across the porch. Every piece of it was mine. Not a hand-me-down. Not an afterthought. Not a guilt-soaked reward. Just mine. I started writing again, too, under my pen name. Essays. Letters. Short guides on emotional boundaries. One piece titled, "When Your Love Language is Being Left Alone," went viral. I got emails from people across the world. "You wrote what I've never had the words for." I cried. "Thank you. I left my parents a week ago. Your words gave me the courage. I never signed my real name, because they didn't need to know me. They just needed to know they weren't alone. And neither was I. Every so often, I'd sit on the porch with a cup of coffee, scrolling through my old family's social media with a burner account. I watched them try to piece things together. Samantha's events were chaotic now, no more curated flyers or structured timelines. Mom posted blurry photos from birthdays with uneven candles and mismatched plates. Dad looked smaller, older. They weren't falling apart. They were facing life without the one who glued it all together. They thought I was just background noise. But turns out, I was the architecture. 1 year after I disappeared, a letter arrived. Cream envelope. Handwritten again. But this time it wasn't just my dad's. It was from all of them. Signed by every sibling. Even my mother. You were never invisible, Jade. We just chose not to see you. And we're sorry. We miss you. Please come home. Even if it's just for one dinner. I stared at it for a long time. Then I folded it, slipped it into a box labeled before. Because I had no plans to go back. But I wasn't bitter anymore. I was better. The envelope was burgundy, thicker than the others. Inside was a formal invitation, printed in cursive gold. You're invited to Dad's 60th birthday celebration. The family hopes you'll join us. No pressure, just love. It came with a handwritten note from my sister. Jade, I know we don't deserve it, but we'd like the chance to try. Please just come. I stared at it for days. It sat on my nightstand, unmoved, like a question I wasn't ready to answer. I didn't owe them anything. Not a return. Not a smile. Not my presence. But still a voice deep inside whispered, you're not going back for them. You're going back for you. To see it. To face it. To stand in the same space where I had once been erased. Not as the broken girl holding a paper plate, but as the woman who walked away and built a life no one handed her. So I went, not to belong, but to witness. I wore soft cream linen, a dress I bought for myself with the first client bonus check I ever earned. Minimal makeup, simple earrings, a quiet confidence that couldn't be borrowed or bought. When I walked through the door, everything slowed. Laughter dimmed. Drinks paused mid-pour. A fork clinked against a plate. There were about 30 people. And every single one of them turned to look at me like I was someone they'd only ever seen in stories. Because I was. I was myth and consequence and memory walking in on 2 feet. My mother blinked first. She opened her mouth but said nothing. My dad stood and smiled softly, eyes damp. My sister stepped forward. She didn't try to hug me. She just said, "Thank you for coming." I nodded. Not in forgiveness. Not in permission. Just acknowledgement. I sat at the edge of the party, watching. I didn't offer to help. Didn't pick up trash. Didn't refill drinks. They noticed. Because this time, I didn't disappear into the background. I didn't earn my place. I occupied it. Aunt Rachel came over. You look different, she said. I am, I replied, sipping my drink. Cousin James tried to crack a joke. It fell flat. Everything they used to mock in me, my silence, my slowness, my stillness, now made them nervous. Because I wasn't small anymore. I wasn't desperate. I wasn't theirs. After dinner, my mom stood up, glass in hand. A toast. But this time, her voice wavered. She looked at me, then back at the room. I want to say something, she said, eyes glossy. To Jade. People shifted in their chairs. I was wrong. I was cruel. And I didn't realize how much of our family's strength lived inside the daughter I treated like an afterthought. Silence. Then, I didn't just lose you when you walked away. I lost myself. Because you were the one keeping us from falling apart. She swallowed hard. I'm sorry. I can't erase it. But I see you now. I stood. Calm. I didn't cry. Didn't gloat. Didn't perform. Just looked around the room. At the faces that had once laughed. And said, you said no one would notice if I disappeared. But when I did, this entire family cracked. I was never the problem. I was the pattern breaker. Then I set my glass down. And I left. This time, I didn't vanish. I just chose not to stay. I didn't wait for dessert. I didn't stay for hugs or tears or more apologies. I walked out the door just as the string lights began to flicker on. This time, no one laughed. No one said a word. And I didn't look back. Back at my car, I sat for a moment in the quiet. Engine off. Fingers resting on the wheel. Then I opened the note my dad had slipped into my purse on my way out. "We failed you. And I don't know if we'll ever deserve a second chance. But thank you for being strong enough to walk away so we could finally wake up." I folded it slowly and tucked it into my glove box next to my registration. Because now, I was registered to myself. The next morning, I returned home, to the lavender walls, the humming garden, the fresh notebook beside my coffee. I didn't cry. I didn't replay their faces. I just opened my laptop, typed in the title of my next blog post. "When the ones who ignored you start asking where you went." And I wrote, "There's a kind of grief that doesn't come with funerals. It comes when you realize the people you loved only loved your usefulness. And once you stop being useful, you disappear." But I didn't vanish to be cruel. I disappeared so I could reappear for myself. Whole. Unedited. Unapologetically mine. Later that day, I received an email from a reader. "Your story gave me courage. I finally said no to my family after years of being the one who held everyone up. I didn't know how much I needed your words until they saved me." I closed my eyes and smiled. Because now the girl they said wouldn't be missed, she was changing lives. Months passed. I didn't hear from my family again, not in the loud, performative way they once operated. But sometimes I saw glimpses. A like from my mother on an anonymous article I wrote. A repost of my quote by my sister on her stories. No credit, but I knew it was mine. And once, I passed my brother in a grocery store. He paused, opened his mouth. But I just smiled. Not cold, not cruel, just free. They told me no one would notice if I disappeared. But when I did, their world got quiet. Their lives got harder. And for the first time, they realized who I was. Not the background, not the help, not the weak one. I was the structure. I was the storm and the calm after. I was the girl who walked away and came back as a woman they'd never get to hold again. Because I didn't leave to be missed. I left to find out who I was when no one was watching. And what I found was enough.